So I did put in our opening question just to put in your name and where you're coming from. And that if you have a Zoom background, to describe why you chose what you have. And if you can't put one on or don't have one on, what would you choose for a Zoom background today? Just a little fun to get to know each other a little bit better. So we have a pretty full agenda, but we are hoping that we will have the opportunity to have a lot of conversation and dialogue. We're going to do breakout rooms again. So hopefully then you guys can get to know each other. Because we have such a wonderful large group of individuals, it's hard to go around and do introductions. But when we do the breakouts, make sure a piece of that is always introducing yourself to your small group so that everyone gets to know each other. So a couple updates before we get going is, I think a lot of you may already know, but Taylor McLaughlin has taken a job with Folk Rehab Services, and he's going to be joining the Apple Valley team. And so with that, it's both exciting for him and exciting for VR, but it's super sad. I know for MSS, I saw Jay crying. And it's also because of the way we set up our Pre-ETS community practice, we really want it to be a co-facilitated partnership between VR and our partners. So that said, we've always had this little planning committee that, and Taylor and I were co-facilitators, and Ted is part of that committee, but was not interested in that role. So we talked to Chelsea at LifeWorks, and she decided to join our committee and help me co-facilitate meetings, which we're really excited about. So I just wanted to give Chelsea just a second to introduce herself to you guys.
Hello, yes, I am Chelsea Garvin. I work for LifeWorks Services and I'm a vocational coordinator. So I support primarily placement staff on our employment teams in the East, West, South Metro, Hastings area, as well as the Mankato, Southern Minnesota region. Prior to this role, I was a career placement counselor out of our Mankato office, and I worked solely with individuals referred from VRS. As an organization, we have had pre-employment transition services on our contract since it became available. And we're all just really excited to work with providers and VR to continue to develop these services and the support for those in transition. So I look forward to getting to know many of you, if not all of you, hopefully better. And I can definitely put my email address in the chat if anybody has any LifeWorks specific questions or questions for me. So thank you.
Awesome. And again, thank you, Chelsea. Taylor is going to continue to be involved in this community of practice. You know, his role will just be different because he'll be coming from the VR side instead of our partner side. So just wanted to give you that little update. And then before we kick off, I am looking for a volunteer to take minutes today. So who wants to volunteer? Yeah, I see your, Julie, I see your hand up. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. All right. So the next thing on our agenda is we are going to do another, what we are calling Provider Spotlight. So Andrea West from Goodwill Easter Seals is going to give a little provider update. It'll be about 15 minutes. Andrea, do you need to do any screen sharing or are you good?
Yeah, actually it is Kyle Van Aker.
Oh, okay.
From Goodwill. And Kyle, are you going to do the screen sharing?
I certainly can. Yep.
Okay, let me just change that. Just give me 1 sec here. Gotta find your name.
Thank you for having us today. Really appreciate it. I can start off.
You should be set up, Kyle.
Thank you.
I can start off by introducing myself. I'm Andrea West. I'm a workforce development manager at Goodwill Easter Seals for transitional employment and student career services in the Metro. So we work with students who are interested in all the Pre-ETS categories, as well as adults that are interested in on-the-job evaluations and transitional employment.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Kyle Van Aker. I am Workforce Development Manager alongside Andrea at Goodwill Easter Seals, and the team that I support focuses primarily on the actual job search, placement services, and then retention services through extended employment. So yeah, I'm going to pull my screen up right here. Of course, it's blocked by.
Something you need from me, or is it?
No, I just had a window that was over the top of the button.
Oh, okay.
As always, something
Yep, I can see it now.
interesting happens. All right. So as everybody knows, this is just kind of a presentation. So, over the course of the last 3 months, this is a presentation specifically for providers and for Pre-ETS reps about our virtual services, our virtual catalog. So over the course of the last 3 or 4 months, and even prior to that, Goodwill Easter Seals was looking at, how do we expand our geographical area? How do we obviously adjust to all of the things that COVID has thrown at us? And we took the opportunity to partner across pretty much the entire organization. We have a big geographical footprint. We have around 50 stores across the majority of Minnesota, the southern portion of Minnesota, into the north. And our services, we have services in St. Cloud, Mankato, Rochester, out in Wilmer. So there's a lot of offices that we serve, and there's some offices that we don't serve. So just with the ramp up with Pre-ETS and everything, we took the opportunity to partner with our greater Minnesota service partners and start to create some classes that can be offered remotely. As many of us have had to adjust, this is the kind of our big lift over the course of the last 4 or 5 months. So not a lot of people are aware, but we've done these types of services specifically for youth for quite a long time, and this is just kind of a continuation of those, our services. So at Goodwill, it's our vision is that a world where everyone can experience the power of work, and our mission really is to just address barriers to work and independence with the people that we work with. So as you know, Pre-ETS is really preparation for those initial experiences in the world of work. And we always try and keep a focus on the fact that even though one experience may not be directly, right on the straight and narrow line towards someone's final career position, there are transferable skills, and we learn something from every single job. So we've been offering youth services for around 20 years. We're not well known, I think, in the community for youth services. It's just kind of part of what we do, and it's incorporated into a lot of programs. But we do have programs that are specific for youth. See our virtual class offerings. It was a great opportunity this last few months, because in some ways, being as big of an organization as we are, sometimes we don't get the opportunity to work with our other service providers, say out in Wilmer, up in St. Cloud. And the creation of the curriculum for the virtual classes gave us an opportunity to partner with them and really to look at, who's really passionate about a specific topic or who has a lot of experience within a specific topic. And then we created that curriculum around it. So it could be professional communication, We have somebody who is particularly adept and familiar with teaching that on a daily, weekly basis. Then they get to create that curriculum, and then everybody else kind of adds into it, and they also might be facilitating those classes. So we're leveraging people's passion and experience to really offer a lot of these classes. So our offerings are kind of fall under a few different categories. We have industry trainings. We have careers with animals. You get the sometimes dreaded referral where a young person says, well, I want to work with animals. We have something for that. And we get them a real picture of, what skills are needed really to work with animals, who hires for those positions, what are the more notable employers who you might find a position with in a career for animals. How do your personal skills align with the needs of that position? So we're getting people thinking about, am I really a great fit for a career in animals? And then finally, we leverage our partnerships with, people who work at companies, those specific companies, so that they can talk about how they got into their career, their kind of pathway towards working with animals, and what it's like on the day-to-day, and gives the opportunity for young people to ask questions about that. So that's an example of what those industry trainings look like.
I would just
go ahead.
Sorry, I would just add to that particular class, the animal careers. That one happens to be done by one of my staff typically, and she invites somebody that she knows that owns a horse stable. And so they do a little bit of a real life walk around with the horses, and she talks to them while she's grooming the horse. So
yeah, it's pretty cool. Real time. So we also have post-secondary education counseling. These are a couple titles. What happens after graduation, how distance learning at college works. Self-advocacy is always a central theme of what we're doing. We want people to be able to speak up for themselves, to really know what to say, when to say it, how to say it. So we've got some specific classes in self-advocacy. We've also got workplace readiness training classes. We have pre-ETS classes in all of the 5 pre-ETS categories, but these are just a few examples of some of what they look like. Obviously, job search basics, using public transportation is a really big one. A lot of young people still assume it's going to be a school or a parent that's going to get them to their, first experience. So, Andrea.
I was muted really quick. Okay, I'm good now. So we also have specialized classes available. And what we mean by that is that sometimes VR will be in contact with some schools that have a group of students, and they want to be able to attend the class, but they're not able to attend the class that's in our catalog on the days or times that are listed. So if you know somebody that has a group of 5 or more students that are interested and available for a class in our catalog, but there's a different time and day will work for it, please reach out to us, because we are very willing to try to figure out how to individualize that. That isn't our the thing that we is like our first thing that we want to do. We want people to really use what's in the catalog to try to make it that work, but we will definitely individualize when we need to. And then also, of course, we have one-to-one services for all the pre-ETS categories. Another virtual training or another training that we made virtual, or at least partially virtual, is retail skills training. And the retail skills training is 5 weeks virtually in class, and then another 2 weeks after that for the work experience. And the work experiences are, and it is paid. The work experiences are at 2 of the Macy's locations in the Metro, Mall of America and Maplewood Mall, and 4 of the Cub Foods locations in the Metro. That includes Apple Valley, Bloomington, Shorewood, and Savage Cub Foods. And actually, we just started, we're going to be able to do a class up in Forest Lake. We're so excited with the Forest Lake School District. So if you know anybody up there, we're doing a class, I think, mid-April to the beginning of June. We also have realized that though virtual life has been forced upon us because of because of our situation with COVID, we do realize that there are things that students benefit from this long term. The skills that they're learning in the classes will help them with going on job interviews, taking college classes, completing workplace orientation. And the skills that we have seen them work on is self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, relationship skills. I mean, these are all things when students get in these small classes, in the virtual classes, it is a very non-judgmental environment. And so they can make mistakes, they can throw out new ideas, they work together on projects, short-term projects. And it's really, really awesome to see how they grow.
I can say real quick, Andrea, the illustrious Alan Mavis, he's on Andrea's team. He's a outstanding content creator. He has a exercise that he kind of incorporates into a lot of his classes where, you know, he asks young people to partner up, get into small groups, and their task is they have to create a new cereal, a cereal like breakfast cereal. And they have to imagine that they are essentially creators or manufacturers of cereal. And they have to create a new one because their job is on the line, their company is struggling, and they need to come up with something. And they work together to create, essentially to pitch an idea to a CEO. Now, that gives people the opportunity to work in a team. It gives them the opportunity to think critically about, you know, really where they're going to go with the project, and also have to, you know, kind of articulate at the end of that as a group, you know, they have to work through the issues as a group. What are they going to settle on as a group, but also what is the final product for the manager? We always try and use a lot of those visualizations as well. So instead of putting words up on a screen like this, in this case, there might be pictures to kind of jog people's memory a little bit, or perhaps it also kind of addresses the comprehension or reading skills kind of barrier we run into sometimes with some of our participants. But it's activities like that you know, they are really well transferable in a virtual setting, and they also give a young person an opportunity to really think about what it's going to be like to have that self-awareness in a lot of cases, to put out a product or put a good face forward for a supervisor, and also engage in teamwork and problem solving.
Yeah, we try to come up with those type of activities as much as we can to make sure that students are engaged and they're thinking about what we want them to learn in a different way. It's a different perspective and a different way of doing it. It's fun, it's engaging, it kind of gets them thinking in a different way, more creatively a lot of times too. And so they're more willing to engage if that's, well, if they're talking about cereal, they're not talking about the importance of school, right? They're talking about, well, what color should it be? Like, is it multicolored? Is it, as Jay McGregor is mentioning in chat, a cocoa cheese curd crunch? Who knows? There could be students that wanted that. It's possible. But anyway, so thanks so much. We just wanted to talk a little bit about our virtual services today. Appreciate you giving us the time to do that.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, guys. We appreciate that. And, you know, Andrea or Kyle, if you want to upload, you know, any of those any of the information you shared into our Google group, you can feel free to do that as well. The next thing on our agenda is talking about a provider update document. That is what we're titling it. Might not be the right title, but essentially what we want to do is we want to have in our Google group more information from all of you. And so I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to show you a template that we came up with, and hopefully this will work for you guys. So our thought was that if we could create this template for you, our partners, to use, this would be an easy place then to come to see what kind of pre-ETS services and things your organizations are doing. So I'm going to put the link to this was in your was in the agenda, but I can put it in the chat as well. But basically, you know, your provider name, the description of your organization, how are you currently providing services? Are you doing in person? Are you doing virtual? Are you doing a little hybrid of each? You know, who is the pre-ETS contact person or people in your organization? What are the email addresses and the phone numbers? How do you make a referral? Because some organizations have, you know, different processes. So what's that referral contact email? And then what areas are you serving? You know, and again, this pilot is a metro-based pilot for the first 6 months. So that's why we put in those ones. But we also know that there may be some additional information on areas served. And then, oh, I don't think I can go on without entering the fields. But then there's another sheet. So what we're hoping, and our goal of this is a way to again, use our Google groups as effectively as possible and have places for, you know, each of you to highlight and share what's going on at your organizations. Again, you know, we want the real basics of who the players are, but then it does go into like what pre-ETS services are you providing and things like that. But short of watching me type, I don't think it can take you to page 2, unfortunately. Does anyone have any questions about that form or thoughts? Anything else you want to add, Alyssa or Ted?
Hey, Sarah, this is Julie from Fraser. I've got a question. I was filling that form out and I was wondering if there's any way that we can prompt each other to like update it every 6 months or so, just because it feels like that material might get a little stagnant because all of us are changing so rapidly. But if we could just have a prompt to do it every 6 months, that'd be awesome.
That is a great idea. I love it. And, you know, I think we as maybe, as we plan our agendas, maybe we could, you know, just make sure we're putting that out there. Hey, just a reminder, hopefully you've been seeing all these, you know, Google forms out there. And if you have new changes, you know, please keep it updated.
This is Alyssa. Oh, go ahead. Who
Sorry,
was
Alyssa.
going?
This is Ted. I'm sure some people are puzzled like Google, how are we going to get into that with my organization's email? This would require likely construction of a burner account just for the sole purpose of accessing the tools that Google provides. So in my example, I just kind of created one that's very similar to my work email for the sole purpose of getting the documents that are provided here and other work related things. So there's not too many things that would conflict with, you know, the fears of data privacy and things like those. So to create a burner account is pretty simple. You just make one and, you know, please remember your username and password, but it would allow you access over and over again to the documents we're referring to.
This is Alyssa. And I was just going to say, I think we also talked about, I can't remember, Sarah, about each organization having a folder as well. What were we going to implement that later? How were we going to proceed with that?
I don't know if we made a decision, but yeah, we were talking, like, just like I said, for Goodwill, like, the information you shared today could certainly be put up into our Google group. I will talk to Taylor because I do think we can just like start to drop folders in. So like, here's your Goodwill folder, here's your MSS folder, here's the ProAct folder, et cetera. I think that's a good idea.
I think we should. I think, yeah, because then if you have certain flyers like this document that we're creating is just kind of a high level look at everybody, what's offered, but then you can have your flyers or other information saved in the folders. And it's a nice one-stop shop for everyone to get at that information without having to dig through saving it somewhere on your computer or whatnot.
Yeah, Alyssa, you just shared what I was about to say, so I'll say it in a different way. That's a basic template. That's the basic bare minimums we're asking, so that if we needed to click it, we can get a very generic looking form. But every organization does things differently. MSS, for example, does the theater program that's new, so that makes them very unique. So you can also be unique in how you present your marketing materials for your programs, and that's where this is. We're trying to highlight that you could have a spot to place those and maybe inspire people to do more to create those marketing materials, which we just saw today through Goodwill. So does anybody have any more questions about the Google, or of having issues linking onto the Google, or fears or concerns?
Yeah, I don't know about a fear, but I was just looking on my Google Drive and I assume we're supposed to have access to a folder where there's documents. I have access to some shared documents, but not to like a folder. So I'm not sure how I would be able to upload things.
Maybe we need to set up the folder, Sarah, or maybe Taylor does. So how about we do that and then inform everybody? Should we do that?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. We'll make sure everything's kind of organized on the Google group, and then we'll send out an email when that's done. But in the meantime, you can still submit your forms. The Google form, you can go in and fill it and submit that. Any other questions about that? Okay. Well, with that, then I will turn it over to Alyssa, and she's gonna run through some VR team updates.
Hi, everybody. Again, Alyssa Klein, VRS Transition and Pre-ETS Specialist. I did send out a very last minute email to our, as again, we have one representative from each of our VRS Metro teams representing their team that are part of the COP. So I sent out a very last minute email to them this morning. Just we thought we'd try to go a little quicker through the VRS updates today. So just asking them if they had updates. And I didn't hear from everybody yet. So I'll just go through, there weren't many. Mary from the Blaine office, Mary Steinmetz, she said things are a little slower right now because of spring break and schools opening up. Sam Bravo from the Burnsville Shakopee team said that she's seen an increase in 9th grade applications and those wanting work experience. Stephanie LaRusso from the Minneapolis North team said they're just getting more referrals rolling in right now. So didn't have much more to report other than that. That's all I got this morning. I didn't hear, and again, this isn't calling you out because you did something wrong because I just sent it out last minute, but I'll just say Ann Tackle from Apple Valley, Lauren Stadar, Minneapolis South, Megan Mulkey, Susan Fox. Do any of you have any updates?
Hi, Alyssa, this is Sue. Mine are very similar to what you already read. I've seen an increase in younger student referrals, a lot of 15-year-olds looking for jobs for the summer. And so I think you said what's happening in our area too.
Thanks, Sue.
Hi, Alyssa. This is Lauren with the South office. I would just have to say the same thing. We're seeing a lot of students coming, a lot of younger students looking for their first job. I think one thing I might add is that just because we're doing this step up thing and hoping to, get that rolling, we are looking for providers who can do job coaching. So if any providers are doing the in-person job coaching, if you could let me know, that would be awesome.
Thank you, Lauren. Yeah, Step Up, for those who aren't familiar, is the City of Minneapolis Summer Youth Work Program. So I know that the Minneapolis teens have been working really hard with the city on collaboration. So that's awesome. Thank you.
So I don't really have any updates from Apple Valley because we are hiring 2 new rehab reps. Taylor will be coming on March 31st, which we're all excited about. Another position to fill, we had a counselor leave. We have 2 counselors going on maternity leave. So we have just a lot of scrambling, and we are just trying to adjust caseloads and get things managed. So I don't have a whole lot to report because we're just trying to figure out those details right now.
A lot. Thank you, Anne. Megan, I see you on the screen.
Hi, good morning, everybody. I guess kind of ditto to everybody. It's been a lot of younger referrals, and then the work experiences for me anyway are still kind of slow because people are still apprehensive to go out in the community. And a lot of, especially with the transition counselors, a lot of the schools are now suddenly just giving referrals, like tons of them, like last minute. So they're kind of, inundated with last minute referrals and paperwork. So fortunately for us pre-ETS rep, we don't have that much paperwork. So it's difficult, but so that's kind of all for us.
Thank you, Megan.
Yep.
I think that's everybody in terms of our updates. So I'll do a better job at asking for those little more ahead of time next time. So should I just move? Oh, yes, Sarah, yes.
Did you get Bloomington's update or no?
Oh, yeah. So Jillian had just said that she didn't have an update. But if you have something, you can let us know.
Well, with Kevin starting, it is starting to pick up a little bit with some schools. With pre-ETS and just trying to get summer stuff scheduled for kids is our big thing. And it's kind of a different summer. One thing that we found, and I'm not sure if other places are finding this, is people do not want virtual stuff this year, but people just aren't sure what summer is going to, because kids are fried, just like many of us, with the virtual piece of it. And so they're kind of in that limbo stage of, is it going to be safe for people to do in-person stuff, but they don't want virtual? So we're kind of in that waiting, I don't know if you want to call it waiting game, or just trying to figure out which way do we go kind of thing. I call it that seesaw because they have communicated they don't want virtual. So I am a little concerned, and just FYI for our providers, that come maybe end of April, beginning of May, or even closer to end of May, we might all be getting slammed because people decide they want to do something and want to do it right now. So just FYI.
This is Ted. Yeah, that's one proactive message that we try to get out now, and it came up at our last meeting, and I've been tooting this horn last year, is it sounds like the trend is people are getting moving and advancing further along towards services maybe now versus that rush in June when school's out. So I thought about asking and bringing it up, but you kind of emphasized it. So please, if we can get those referrals in now versus some of the gymnastics we've had to execute to do, multiple intakes in a day or stay after hours. And when I say we, I'm referring to my supervisor, Anna. She's had to do some unique scheduling in order to get those intakes in on time before the services resumed or initiated the following week. I can remember some Friday evenings, or having 4 or 5 of them on her plate. So if we could just start doing some of those now, shoot them in. Obviously, that's the perfect scenario. But if we all hear it, maybe it'll continue to move that along in the right direction.
This is Sarah. It's not a matter of that we don't want to send it along. It's the families and the kids
Right.
aren't ready to move forward. So we can't make them do something. It's
Right.
so we would love to be sending as many as we could. It's a matter of families not ready.
Thanks, Sarah, and thanks, Ted. So should I move on, Sarah, to our next agenda item? Just roll right into it. I have a number of things to share with all of you. So I'm going to share my screen. Oh, I need access to that. Share screen. All right. Oops. All right. I hate when that thing's at the top and you can't see anything. Okay. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to our Google site and just show you a couple updates there. So here is the main page of our Google site. And then if you go in the resources folder, and Sarah, you just interrupt me if for some reason the screen doesn't follow me to things. I hope it follows. Anyway, number one is I've updated this BRS Community of Practice members list. This is everyone that's a member of this COP. And then so what I did is I added everyone's email address if you wanted to contact anybody. So primary contacts are, we have 2 RAMs represented on our team. We have 1 placement coordinator, Mary, and then we have 1 counselor, Pre-ETS representative per team. So we have them all listed here. So I just wanted you to know I updated that with emails in case you needed to get in touch with anybody. And then the other thing I wanted to update you on is I wanted to say thank you. The conversation last month that we held was around referrals. And out of your feedback, we updated the Pre-ETS referral form for potentially eligible students. And I have that linked on here. So last month we had a draft. Oh, what? Oh, this is my PowerPoint. Sorry. Never mind. Here it is, the next one, the Word document. So anyway, you can see what that referral form, the final version of that form is now on here. It's still 3 pages. It just has a little more detail in there for when we send over the referrals. So it doesn't come up as well when it's on the Google. When you open it in Word, it should come forward a little nicer. But so that is that. Let me know if you have any questions. There were 2 other resources. Oh, wait, before I do that, never mind. I'll put these resources into the chat. But there are 2 resources I just learned about in the past week or 2 that I wanted to share. Number 1 is on LinkedIn. They have a news section that's called Learn Skills for In-Demand Jobs. And this is the page. And I think it'd be worthwhile for you to look through this because number 1, let's see. I'm going to go in here where it says Learn Skills for In-Demand Jobs, and to start learning, you can click there. So first of all, they have online training for I think it's top 10 most in-demand jobs. And you can do online learning, and then they also link to credentials that you can get. The person has to pay for the credential, but right now they have a reduced rate of like $5 to $15 to pay for a credential. I haven't looked into these a whole lot, but I just thought just knowing about it might be kind of interesting. I mean, they have things like customer service, IT support, help desk, and things like that. But then going down more related to Pre-ETS, they have master critical soft skills and learn about virtual collaboration tools. They have courses on soft skills, and they also have courses on, the different tools like Zoom and all the different things that we're using on here. Working with computers and devices, working and collaborating online. Anyway, all kinds, how to use Teams and things like that. And then they also have other courses on job search best practices as well. So I think things like related to interviewing and resumes and things like that. So just wanted you to be aware of that resource, and I'll put the link in the chat in a moment. And then the other resource I wanted you to know about, you can become a member to receive information from Transition Tennessee. They're doing some really cool work. They have a website, and it's kind of a state level collaboration in Tennessee all around pre-employment transition services. So they have tons of curriculum and resources. And one thing they just announced recently is they have a course that, from what I can see, is really essentially for providers on how to skills for teaching. So here are like the lessons they have: collaborating with teachers, choosing curriculum, connecting with students and managing learning environments, and then virtual instruction. So I thought, wow, that seemed pretty cool. So again, I'll give you the link to this page too. All right. And then I'm gonna, just one second here. I'm gonna take you to our webpage on the DEED VRS website. And again, I'll put this in the chat once I'm done talking. I'll make sure you get all of these links. But just remind you that, we are updating all the time this page for our providers on our DEED VRS website. We have a lot of information within the resources section. I was thinking I had something in particular I wanted. Well, I do want to note that we've recently updated our Pre-ETS authorizing, reporting, and invoicing guide. And at the next Community Partner Forum, which is on April 6th from 10:30 to noon, I'm going to be going through portions of the updated guide just as an FYI, but you can see that updated guide here. I think that's all I'm going to say in terms of resources. Oh, here's one other thing. This is just added, E1MN Youth. So with this whole initiative around Employment First Minnesota and the MOU with DHS, it's broader than just that. It's really how DHS, Department of Education, and DEED VRS and SSB are all collaborating. And so a portion of our work is really focused around youth. And we really wanted to have a way to get information out to professionals that support youth with transition and transitioning into competitive integrated employment. So we're going to start a listserv where we'll be able to send out information on resources, training, just any new information that is focused around transition. And it's all for professionals. So I really recommend our VRS staff, you're going to be automatically included, so you don't have to subscribe. But our providers, I would welcome you to click where it says click to subscribe, and you'll be able to get all those messages. All right. And then for today's breakout session, we are, just one second, today's breakout session, we're going to be divided by the 5 different Pre-ETS categories to have some discussion within each group, you'll be able to choose which of the 5 Pre-ETS categories you'd like to join in on a discussion about. I think we talked about doing it this way every other month, where like every other month, we'll just divide based on the 5 Pre-ETS categories and talk about best practices and resources related to that topic. But before we went into them today, we thought it would be good to just remind you of our definitions of those 5 categories. And this is a document, again, on our website, definitions for PT contracts, so that you can always refer back to this. So the 5 primary categories, of course, job exploration counseling, working with a student to basically explore their interests and then explore jobs and help them with making matches related to that. I also want to point out that it can include setting up classroom speakers that can discuss careers. So if you're working with a school and they would like to have like an employer come in and talk about something, or any sort of speaker that would come in the classroom, that can also be included. Pre-ETS, post-secondary education counseling. I won't read through that full definition. It is a very long one, but it's everything related to exploring post-secondary education and training and getting prepared for that. And it can also include for those that are in post-secondary education, if they are maybe reconsidering their major, or maybe they are thinking about switching to a different school, things like that. It can also include that support once they're already enrolled in a post-secondary ed program. And then Pre-ETS workplace readiness training include any of these 4 subcategories. So it can be benefits information services, so helping a student to understand how benefits work. Benefits and how they're impacted, I should say, by working. Independent living services or soft skills training. Job seeking skills training, so anything you need related to knowing how to look for a job and keep a job. And the 4th, where's the top here? Sorry. Public transportation training can also be included in that. The 4th of the 5 categories for Pre-ETS is instruction and self-advocacy. Pretty straightforward, learning about disability and its impact, how to request accommodations, learning about personal rights and responsibilities. It can also include mentoring. And I would say that that's an area yet where we could definitely build more around mentoring. We do have some folks out in Western Minnesota trying out an e-mentoring project. I actually do have some curriculum that I would be happy to share related to e-mentoring. But anyway, and it also includes youth leadership opportunities. And then last but not least, of course, I think we all know work-based learning pretty well. So we have the introductory work activities, which can include a career mentorship experience, informational interview, job shadow, service learning, and workplace tour field trip. And then we have work experience services and work experience wages. So those are the 5 categories once again. And so I'm gonna stop sharing so that I can make sure you all get the links.
Okay. So what we will do is I have created 6 breakout rooms, because in addition to the 5, we also know that people are at different places of their Pre-ETS journey. So we also have a Pre-ETS 101. So we did that breakout. Group in case you maybe don't feel ready to dive into one of the specific Pre-ETS categories for a deeper discussion. Our goal is to give you guys about 15 minutes in your small group. And again, when you get into your breakout groups, I'll make them public in just a minute. You choose which group you want to go into, okay? And then when you're in your small group, make sure you take time to introduce yourselves. You're going to want to choose a reporter. So who in your group is going to report back? And you want to choose a recorder. And again, we have that kind of similar to the Google Sheet we used last time in our breakouts. We have that Google Sheet for you guys to use in doing the recording. So obviously your reporter is just going to give a really high level update, but we would love to have all of your notes and feedback. So introduce yourselves, choose your reporter and your recorder. And I am going to open up these rooms here. Again, we're thinking about 15 minutes for the breakout. And then you should get a 60-minute or 60-second warning that your breakout's about to come to an end. And you can choose whatever room applies to you most. Does anyone have any questions before I do that?
This will be an interesting experiment. We'll be able to see if certain ones are heavier than others, but yeah, I'm looking forward to doing it in this format this week.
Okay, I assume you can all see them and you can choose your rooms here.
I have a question.
Yes.
How do I get into a group if I'm participating from my phone?
Oh, you know what? I can assign you if you want to tell me which one you want to go to.
Probably the work-based learning. It's probably the Pre-ETS 101.
Pre-ETS 101? Okay, I'm going to put you in that room. Yes. No, that's totally fine.
Back.
All right, Ted, why don't you go for the...
Sure, yeah. So I'll just call on the groups individually and then share. And selfishly, we had a great discussion in my group, so I'm going to pick them first. Heather, go ahead.
So our group did not really get anywhere beyond questions, just so everyone is aware. We're talking about just the work-based experiences and such, but talking more about how there's been a concern question, if you will, about wearing a mask versus not wearing a mask, and how do we interface with that with the vaccines and disclosure whether you've been vaccinated or not. And it all stemmed out of the controversy that's been happening in the hospitals about nurses who have chosen not to wear a mask or got the vaccine and no longer have to necessarily wear a mask. And then how do we fit in that? And that was communications. What is the business's standpoint on that? And does it fall closely to like the whole disclosure of a disability side of that? And there are families who have preferences of working with people who are vaccinated or not. So it wasn't really focused on necessarily the whole area of our topic that we were in the breakout room for, but it certainly does interface because that disclosure piece and comfort levels within businesses. And what are those next steps as we move further into the population being vaccinated?
Yeah, it's an interesting conversation. It kind of is that realm of disclosure, similar to those disability disclosures that we fight so hard to preserve and protect. So it's going to be interesting to see employers' perspectives and their stance on these things, and that can definitely impact how much our individuals can disclose. Or we all work with people that are very open books, so that could open up a whole can of worms in itself. So that would be an interesting trend or something to keep an eye on and monitor moving forward. Well, we can move to another group if that's okay. Stephanie Kruger, quite the typing you have completed here. Why don't you guys go with the post-secondary educational counseling?
You want me to just briefly run through stuff?
Yeah, that'd be great.
All right. I think so I'll just do what's working first. Highlighting that the more time you have with students before they graduate, the better. Gives you time to build rapport, help with to navigate career process beforehand. So that junior and senior year works the best. What's not working is more difficult is when you're asked to join the student, like that week after they started school, or just a week or even a month before they start school. There's just that huge time crunch. I mean, really, there's only, the 24 hours in a day with people's schedules. So that's kind of what's working, what's not with that. What's working also, deal with perceptions of college, kind of asking the big question of what are perceptions, what are some ideas and concerns, and then really addressing all of them, and myths and things. Having a work coordinator and teacher involved to connect to the CRP that makes that bridge easier, less awkward to be some random stranger talking to a 15 or 16-year-old. Having that work coordinator and teacher kind of legitimizing that relationship and the conversation. Goodwill shared that they meet with financial aid offices. I guess they are officers with individuals. They can help fill out the student piece of the FAFSA, and then they do a lot of follow-up. So we talked a lot about the financial aid piece of things. Something that doesn't work well is when the student is independent, independent in quotes, and then doesn't want to have or can't have the parents involved. So it's just extra challenging with trying to figure out how do you get FAFSA information if they're, if parents have to sign things, how does that happen with a financial aid office? So lots of that. But there was also there are webinars through the Office of Higher Ed that will address those tricky FAFSA issues and challenges. And then another thing that works well is touring schools. And yeah, that's it. The end. Now you know what I know, as I say in my life.
Great, thank you so much. It sounds like, and I'm from looking at the document, the saturation went into only 3 of the 5 groups. So the last group that was very saturated was Pre-ETS 101. So somebody step up and speak on behalf of that group, please.
Hello, I'm the Pre-ETS 101 reporter. And we spend a lot of time on introductions. And out of those, we realized we are all feeling just a little bit maybe out of our depth or a little new into the Pre-ETS world. And through that, at least we didn't feel so alone. So it was really nice to chat with other people who are sort of having the same experience that we're having. We touched on the resource that Alyssa shared was really helpful. The Tennessee Transition Resource is something we think we'll use and find really helpful. And then we talked a little bit, we didn't get too far into questions, but just talked a little bit about how authorizations and units for Pre-ETS come in small chunks, and that can be challenging, and how we can learn to work within that and kind of anticipate those renewals coming quarterly, and we need to kind of stay on top of that as well as the VR side as well. So yeah, I think that was where we spent most of our time.
With the 101 group, did you feel like there was a good mixture between the vets and the rookies?
I thought so. We had some people who were able to share from their experience, and who had definitely been doing it longer than I have. So I definitely felt like I got some really good information from people who have been doing this longer than me, for sure.
Great. I feel bad for the groups that went undiscussed, but
No,
maybe
actually, Ted, the only group that didn't have people in it was the job exploration counseling. So
okay, did one jump in after? Okay, I didn't refer to the doc in a minute
You
or
can
so.
go for the work-based learning group if you want.
Jillian.
So we kind of went in and out of both work-based learning activities and work experience activities of just kind of discussions, as I feel like it's kind of natural for that group. Our first kind of conversation we had was about work experiences and kind of tryouts of jobs or short-term work experiences. And one CRP is not able to be the payer. And so just talking to other CRPs about the benefits of that and kind of the struggles of that. We also talked about, some of the struggles with this, some CRPs are having, that they're creating some great curriculum, some great activities, and the struggles to get referrals, and how they've been working hard to change that over time and hear a lot of our, our asks, and then us as the referral sources and the counselors providing for those, whether they're group classes or even individual things. So just talking about those struggles during COVID, and now I know we've talked about everything hopefully opening up and more providers now being able to be in person. That's music to our ears, and hopefully for our students too, who are just burnt out from that online kind of learning and virtual learning. But some of the Pre-ETS coordinators discussed that, for those students who aren't quite looking for the work experience, but are really looking on just building some confidence skills, practicing interviewing skills for the workplace readiness, we see that a lot. And then some other students who are younger, who are just kind of looking to get that first job and all the things that go into preparing for that first job. I think those were the main things that we talked about. If I missed anything, jump in, team members.
And then the last group is the self-advocacy group.
I'm going to go out on a limb here and say we had an awesome conversation, actually. So we talked a lot about, well, let me back up a minute. I joined this group because I wanted more information on what others were doing to address this with students. And I know some other people did as well. So we talked about kind of how we're using non-disability specific language with students because, there's that stigma. And so we're asking things like, how what difficulties do you have with learning, or what challenges, that kind of stuff, to help bring about those conversations, and hopefully aiding us to be able to say, well, how do you ask for help? Like, how do you ask for what you need? We found that this can be a touchy conversation with a lot of people, like high school all the way to the adults that we work with. And we really feel like bringing it up now in the transition is probably going to be very beneficial for people, because if you're getting comfortable now with opening up and asking for help, though it's uncomfortable, we feel like if we can at least breach that topic with these students, they're going to be able to be more comfortable when they land a job and saying, okay, nope, now is the time. I am struggling with something. I have to ask for help. How do I do this? So there's a lot of resources that are out there that were talked about. There hasn't been a lot of referrals that we've made for this. So I know like LifeWorks was talking about the things that they do with talking about how they go about giving people knowledge about their rights and knowing what kind of accommodations are out there. But also I think a big topic too was, though the self-disclosure piece is a little hard, but we found that finding a way to connect with these students and adults is so important, because if you can disclose a little bit about your experiences, I think it just helps people to feel a little bit more comfortable, because Alyssa had pointed out that there's so many people that feel alone and like they're the only ones going through this, when that's so not the case. So I think it's just letting people know that they're not alone is also a big help. I'm cutting myself off now. I could go on.
Thank you, Stephanie. And thank you everyone for reporting out from the group discussion. I know we always feel like we run out of time, and I know you guys always have really robust discussions when we do the breakouts, and that's fantastic. We are almost at our time. I did put into the chat just some wrap-up stuff. So if you haven't, be sure to type your name into the chat so we get you on our attendance list. Two, you can, this was a question in the chat, but you can go and fill out that Google form right now that has your organization's information. So you can do that right now. We will work on getting those individual folders for more detail from your organization, but you can do that Google form. The notes, they're live, so go in and add anything you want to. And then just if you're having trouble accessing the Google site or the documents, just let us know. For me, I put in a tip when I go log into Google. I don't know why it doesn't show up right away, but I just go to my Google Drive and then I do a search for the word resources, and then I see the MN Pre-ETS COP, and you see the resource docs that Alicia shared. So that's how I find them. There might be an easier way, but that's how I find them. And then just a reminder that our next meeting is April 15th from 9 to 10:30. So with that, we are right at our time, but I'm so glad you guys were all here. So thank you so much and have a great day.
Hey, Alyssa, the first